Good morning, welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Wednesday, the 28th day of Shvat. Let's begin with tzedakah. Kedayla tzedakah. Shemekarev es esakula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. Don't forget to put tzedakah of your coins every single day. And we continue in chapter 25. And the Alter Rebbe talks about the concealed love that every Jew possesses, which explains why people would give up their lives not to be separated from Hashem. And Alter Rebbe explained how this love also helps us to not to violate any mitzvah, any prohibition. Why? Because violating any sin is a form of idolatry. We separate ourselves from Hashem, and a Jew, does not want to be separated from Hashem. Then he continued to explain that this also helps us in doing the positive mitzvahs. Why? Because, again, what happens when you do a mitzvah? You become connected with Hashem. So besides the fact that failing to do a mitzvah is also a separation from Hashem, which this is something that you cannot do. The only thing why we are able to do it is because we forget about this hidden love that we have. And the Alter Rebbe goes on now to explain that doing the mitzvah is in a way even a greater level of unity with Hashem than not being separated from Hashem. In other words, we said that a Jew is willing to give up his life not to be separated from Hashem. But the separation from Hashem, when a person commits idolatry, is being separated from Hashem, and for that a person will give up his life, that separation is not a permanent separation. Because even if a person commits idolatry, he can still do teshuvah. He can still reconnect to God. But yet is not going to do it. Because deep in the heart, the Jew does not want to be separated, not even for a second. And that is why people throughout history would give up their lives for that. Even though it's only a temporary separation. So the Alter Rebbe says, when it comes to doing mitzvahs, when it comes to do the positive commandments, and the Yetzer Hara comes and says, "Oi, it's difficult. Why should I wake up so early in the morning to go pray? I need my health. I need my sleep. Why should I give so much money for tzedakah? I'll give when I'm comfortable. I'll give a little here, which is nice, but to give everything away." And here, when you think about the effect of the mitzvah, that effect of the mitzvah is being united with Hashem, and that unity with Hashem through the mitzvah or through studying the Torah is an eternal unity. It's not something temporary. So the discomfort that it takes to perform a mitzvah in the best way is much less painful than obviously the sufferings, the torture of death. And yet when it comes to not to be separated from Hashem, a Jew is willing to give up his life and suffer the torture. But when it comes to the mitzvah, which is much easier, less pain, here the Yetzer Hara comes and says, it's no big deal. So the Alter Rebbe says that this is the tools that we should use to think about before, when we have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, think about that eternal bond that happens when you do a positive mitzvah. So let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. And in similar matters, that entails great effort, where one must struggle with his evil inclination and its wiles. His old Yetzer Hara comes with all kinds of tricks. Lekarer nefesh ha'adam shelo lahafkir mamoinoi ubrius gufay. That the Yetzer Hara, which seeks to cool the ardor of a man's soul, claiming that he ought not dissipate his money in the case of charity or his health in matters requiring physical exertion. So when it comes to give tzedakah, and say, okay, I'll give when I'm comfortable. But to say that really the money is not mine, it's Hashem, belongs to Hashem, and Hashem gave it to me, and I'm just in charge. God appointed me in charge of this money just to give it out in the right places. That's a concept that it's hard to fulfill. And the same thing when it comes to health. Of course, the Torah says that we have to keep our health. We have to keep, that's an obligation in the Torah. As the Rambam writes, we need to be healthy. We have to do everything to stay healthy. But the question is, are you going to use this as an excuse? I'm going to wake up early in the morning when I need to go for a trip, but when I need to go to that and say, oh no, I need some more sleep, or any other thing. This is something that the Yetzer Hara comes and tries to stop the person from committing completely to Hashem. So that's the thing. To stand against this argument of the Yetzer Hara. So it is very easy for a person to resist and subjugate his nature when כשיוסי מליבוי שנצח היצר בכל זה ויוסי מזה ולעשות הפכי ממש קל מאוד מאיסורי מיסי השם ישמרנו. It is very easy for a person to resist and subjugate his nature when he considers deeply that to conquer his nature in all the above and more, to put this discomfort in following the mitzvahs, and in fact to do the very opposite, meaning to exert himself strenuously, both bodily and financially, is much lighter suffering than death. May God prevent us. And yet, the suffering of death, a person would be lovingly and willingly accepted. Accept the suffering not to be separated from Hashem. Meisuri misa, Hashem ishmereinu. Oya makabel be'avo berotzen shelo lipored mi'chudei ve'achdusei izborech afilu lefisho nishtachves laved zorech chas v'shalom. Yet he would lovingly and willingly have accepted the pain of death. God prevent us, so as not to be separated from God's unity and oneness, even for a moment, by an act of idolatry, God forbid. So some people will say, wait, no, maybe I will not be ready to give up my life, not to bow down. But the truth is, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know because you haven't been in this situation. You haven't felt that situation. We never be in such a situation where our life, our spiritual life is in danger. But throughout history, we've witnessed this, that people who have been in this situation, they acted in a way which does not make sense at all, which we would never predict. They acted in a way that was not logical. We say, no, I'm not going to do that. Ready to give up their lives. So think about it. Why are they acting that way? Because there's deep love in our heart, in our neshama, and we want to be connected with Hashem. And we don't want to be separated, even though it's only momentarily. We can do teshuvah later. Yet we don't want to go there. So that's what we are thinking. That's what we should use to help us to come to the right conclusion. that when we have an opportunity to do mitzvah, to be connected with Hashem in every aspect of our lives, we should take that opportunity every moment, every day. As mentioned earlier, every Jew would sacrifice his life rather than practice idolatry, since he knows that it represents separation from God. Certainly then, he ought to accept lovingly and willingly the comparatively minor pain of exerting himself in the performance of the mitzvahs in order to bind himself to God with an eternal bond. So this is a binding that you bind yourself in not momentarily. Anytime you do a mitzvah, it's an eternal bond. דהיינו, כשיעשה רצונו יסבור בעבודה זו, נסגלה בו פנימיוס רצון העליון בבחינת פנים, והגילוי רב ולא בהסתר כלל. This is for by fulfilling God's will through this service, despite the exertion involved, the innermost divine will be revealed in it internally, as opposed to surrounding it or hovering over it from above, and very manifestly without any obscurity whatsoever. So this we discussed earlier in the Tanya chapter 23, that the will of Hashem, what is the inner will of Hashem, is that we do the mitzvahs. So when we use our body, every part of ourselves, our will, our desires, when we use it in the service of Hashem, then the will of Hashem is revealed internally in us. And the connection is an eternal connection. וכשאין שום הסתר פנים ברצון העליון, אזי אין דבר נפרד כלל וכלל ליש יש ודבר בפני עצמי. Now, when there is no concealment of the countenance of the divine will, nothing is at all separated from godliness, having an independent and separate identity of its own. As explained in chapter 22 and 24, no created being can possibly consider itself separated from God unless the divine will is concealed from it. When Hashem created the world, He created it with concealment, and that's why we feel ourselves as separated things. But since the inner aspect of His will stands revealed in one's performance of a mitzvah, it does not permit any sense of separation. So when you do the mitzvah, then the bond, the connection is revealed completely. תהיה נפשי אלוקיס והחיוניס ולבשם כולן מיוחדות בתכלית הייחוד ברצון העליון ואור אין סוף ברוך כנס כליל. Thus, his soul, meaning the soul of the person performing the mitzvah, both the divine and the animating soul and their garments of thought, speech, and action will be united in perfect unity with a divine will and with the infinite light of God, blessed be He, as explained above. So, because here you can ask a question. It says we need to unite our soul to God. But isn't the soul united already? Our godly soul is one with Hashem, as we learned earlier in the Tanya. But here's the answer. The answer here is that the unification, what we do through the mitzvahs, that unification is not only a unification of the godly soul, it also elevates with it the vital soul. That soul that is in neutral and is not necessarily revealed. Godliness is not necessarily revealed in it. When you do the mitzvah, that becomes completely one. This is also what we say it says in a Yom Yom today. The saying of the Baal Shem Tov. It says in this week's Torah portion, it says, when you see the donkey of your enemy that is collapsing under its load, you would consider maybe not to help him. The Torah says, Ozev tazev ima, you should go and help the donkey of your enemy. And the Baal Shem Tov says that this verse, in the spiritual meaning of it, talks about the body and the soul. The word chamoy, which means a donkey, comes from the word chumriyut. Chumriyut means materialism. So he says the Baal Shem Tov, when you see the chamoy, when you see the materialism of this world, your body, your materialistic body, then you must realize that this is seinacha. It is your enemy. Why is this your enemy? Because your neshama wants to connect to Hashem and your body does not. The materialism wants to stay in this material world. And it's collapsing under its load, meaning it's like sitting down and it's too lazy. There is a load that God gave us with human beings, a load to do the Torah, to do the mitzvahs. And this load is supposed to elevate us and to refine the material body. But we're collapsing. I'm saying this, it's too lazy, it's too heavy. Says the Baal Shem Tov, one might consider maybe, perhaps, not to help the body, meaning I will serve Hashem, break my body, fast and do all kinds of things. The body is so bad, so evil, so I will consider to completely separate myself from this materialistic world. Said the Baal Shem Tov, no, that's not the way. That is not the way to serve Hashem, to bring the light of Hashem. Ozev tazev imay. You should help out the donkey of your enemy. You should realize that you're here for a purpose, and you should help out the donkey. You should help out the materialistic part of you, using that materialistic world, and to refine it and to work with it, to bring it closer to Hashem. Because then you create such a powerful unity with Hashem. So living like a Jew is much easier and more productive than dying for Hashem. Dying for Hashem, yes, you keep the connection, but to live and to overcome the temptations and to do the right thing is much easier, and creates even a greater level of unity with Hashem. This is the end of today's shir. We'll see you tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem. Have a wonderful day.